This is NWHC Radio, a podcast and radio show focusing on punk and hardcore from the Pacific Northwest. This is the second episode of NWHC Radio. Big thanks to everyone who checked out the first episode, and thanks for coming back to check this one as well. Extra special big thanks to anybody who liked, shared, subscribed, help amplify it on social media. All that stuff is super important to help kind of spread the word and make it easier to search for those that are, looking for it, and for those that aren't, hopefully it can put it on their radar a little bit easier. I talked about this a little bit on the last show, but just to kind of reiterate, the purpose of the show is really all about sharing some Northwest hardcore music that I love, past and present, and a lot of that isn't available on streaming, so making it a little bit easier for people to find it, and hopefully introducing some new things to some people. Today's show is going to cover a span of time of 1979 to present. And last week I didn't play anything from Boise, Calgary, or Olympia. So today we'll hit those and also do some more Vancouver, some more Tacoma, Seattle, Portland, which we did hit last week. Last thing before we get into the music, if you like any of this stuff, please help spread the word. Post about these bands on social, support them if they have music, if they have music for sale, like go pick it up, merch available, go check it out, grab a shirt, whatever. If they come to your town live, go check them out, tell people they're coming, bring other people, because that's what this is all about. Real quick, I also want to acknowledge the intro music, for those that aren't familiar, is of course by the legendary Seattle straight edge band Brotherhood, the song Breaking the Ice. And then if you didn't recognize the outro music, which you'll hear again later today, this is from the Ill Intent song Numbskull. So last week I started out with a couple of current bands, and I think I'm going to make that kind of the tradition. Is every episode we get two current bands before we start mixing up the eras. This first one is a band that really kind of embodies the spirit of the show, and that's just the spirit of sharing and hyping the stuff that you love, like making sure people are aware of the bands that you think are awesome. And Rejection Pact is a band from Boise who is constantly doing that. They're constantly sharing stuff that they like, constantly like hyping up young up and coming bands, as well as, more established bands that they dig, and really making sure that they're driving as many ears as possible to this stuff that they love. Also, Boise just seems to be popping right now. Like, I haven't been there in years, but like the amount of bands that are coming out of that area that totally rule, the amount of excitement and energy that you see from kids from that scene. They have a new DIY venue that some hardcore kids from there have pulled together called Underdogs. And there's just a lot of energy there. So it's really cool to see. And, despite how far away Boise is from, the geographical center of Northwest hardcore, like these kids love Northwest hardcore. They ride for all these bands. They support all these bands. If you are in Southern California, they are doing a weekend this weekend with my band Change. But check them out and stick around when we play. But November 4th, 5th, and 6th in San Diego, Oxnard, and Orange County. The lineups for these shows are banging. It's going to be a great time. So hope to see you there. If you're in that area, come say what's up. This is Social Murder by Rejection Pact. Boise on top.
Take the body in the mind. At the cost to survive, death is resting alive. With everything chipping away, always a foot in the grave. Run to what doors are proof. Either way, we'll lose.
That was Mortality Rate with the song Saltwater off the Rosemary Saltwater cassette single. Just dropped about 2 months ago on Wild Rose Records out of Calgary. Jess, the vocalist of this band, also sings in a band called World of Pleasure, who's getting a lot of attention right now. Deservedly so. They're one of the best new bands out there. But I wanted to give some shine to Mortality Rate, who is still a band, still out there doing things. They just played a show or two with Punitive Damage up in Alberta, and they're just a powerhouse of a band. Some of you may be asking, is Calgary really in the Pacific Northwest? I mean, it's all the way on the other side of the mountains. For those of you in the United States, it's like above Montana. Geographically, maybe not. It's really far from like Vancouver, but the way that I kind of look at it is if you regularly see kids from these cities at shows in Vancouver or Seattle or, you know, any of the other more centrally located Northwest scenes, you know, or if you regularly saw these kids at Rainfest every year, if you regularly see them coming out to Just Another Gig. I'm not the king of Northwest hardcore. I don't make all the rules, but as far as I'm concerned, Calgary hardcore is Northwest hardcore. And these bands are so sick, so like, why not just bring them into the fold? All right, this next song is from a band that I don't know a ton about, to be honest. A little bit before my time. This came out in 1990. This is Not My Fault by the band Aspirin Feast, off of the record How Do You Call the Cops on the Cops, which is a 7-inch on Piss Poor Records. If you are a record collector, this is a pretty affordable record, somewhere in the $20 range on Discogs. In fact, I just picked one up myself when I saw that how cheap it was. Good, fast hardcore, maybe some crust influence in there. This was the singer of Diddley Squat, which is a band that has come up a lot on the show already and will come up a ton more because members of Diddley Squat went on to a million different, influential Northwest bands. So we'll certainly have to play some of them on an episode pretty quick. I also think maybe one of the members of Aspirin Feast was in Chicken, which is another killer band from Seattle, despite the name. The song's called Not My Fault. That was the Gits with Spear and Magic Helmet. When talking about the Gits, I feel like it's important to acknowledge that the singer Mia Zapata was brutally raped and murdered. Not to minimize the greatness of this band down to, the most horrible and tragic thing that ever happened to them. But it's important to acknowledge, to keep an open and ongoing dialogue about rape and violence towards women. This is an issue that is not going away, unfortunately. So it's important that we talk about it, acknowledge it, and I think only through talking about it and acknowledging it, make sure people that are aware of it and understand it and are looking out for it and, addressing it when it happens and cultivating an atmosphere where it happens as rarely as humanly possible. This was a phenomenal band that was super influential in the scene, and this tragedy really sent shockwaves through the entire music scene, not just the punk and hardcore and like grunge or post-grunge scenes. Like, this was something that was felt at every level of independent music. And sadly, this was a tragedy that went unsolved for years and years and years. I want to say that this murder went unsolved for like 15 years until they finally caught the guy and prosecuted him and is dead now. So, good. The song was the side A on the Spear and Magic Helmet 7-inch. On Spotify, you can find it on the Frenching the Bully record. This 7-inch was 1991, Empty Records. Before that, played some Chain Whip from Vancouver, BC, the song Laguna Bleach from the Two Step to Hell 12-inch EP, which came out last year on Neon Taste in California, or Drunken Sailor in the UK. One of my favorite bands right now, Vancouver Act. If you have a chance to see them, please do, because they're killer. Next up, I'm going to play some Fitz of Depression. This is a band that was a favorite of mine in the early 90s. Got to see them a bunch around like the 93, 94, 95 era. Discogs says they're from Olympia, but for some reason I feel like maybe I thought they were from Tumwater, which is just south of Olympia. I once got caught. I was grounded and I snuck out to go see them play with Wool and Space Boy and Engine Kid, and I got caught sneaking back in at like 3 a.m. So I was grounded already. You can imagine that grounding was extended for a very, very long time. But this is one of my favorite bands back then. Really fun to see. Really kind of had like a Cro-Mags meets Melvins vibe, and they were always entertaining live. The song's called Take It Away off the Untitled or self-titled 7-inch, or on the Pigs Are People Too CD on Negative Feedback Records. After Fits of Depression, you heard Bang Bang You're Dead by The Enemy. This song was from 1979, taking it all the way back. Seattle punk rock OGs. They put out 2 killer 7-inches. I don't think either of them are on Spotify, but you can find them both on YouTube. You can find this one, which is the Bang Bang You're Dead with trendy violence. And the other one is called I Need an Enemy, which has a heavy Dictators vibe. Super cool. After that, you just heard I Seek a Solution by the band Resolution off of their self-titled 7-inch and demo. This was 1990. Scorch Records, Seattle band featuring Ron and Victor from Brotherhood. Also featured Brian, who went on to Engine Kid, and Daniel, who was in Sunny Day Real Estate. I always loved the message behind the song because this is what hardcore is all about, building community, seeking solutions, being productive and bringing people together to do cool things. And Ron has always had a massive reputation for being a guy that was a builder, for bringing people together, for, getting people to move to Seattle, getting them places to live, getting them jobs, bringing people together to do projects, matching up people for bands, matching up bands with labels. May not know this, but Ringworm's The Promise LP actually came out on a Seattle-based label. And the way that happened, as far as I understand it, is, they sent it to Ron because they wanted Overkill to do it. And, he couldn't do it at the time. And so he basically said to Bill, like, hey, you want to put this out? I'll help you start a label. You can put it out and, put it out yourself. And, as you know, that became a legendary record that many think is one of the best records ever made. So, there's just the spirit of, what Ron brought to this community. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But, I think that a lot of that spirit lives on because of the way that he lived and the things that he did. This came out originally on Scorch Records, which I didn't know a ton about it other than Scorch also put out Galleon's Lap, Amenity, and Hush Harbor, which had members that went on to Modest Mouse and 764 Hero. So I texted my resident Northwest Hardcore historian, Dave Larson, and he shared that this label was started by Brian Bauer, who was an original singer for Resolution. He was also Ron's roommate. He later started the record label RX Remedy, which put out a few Red Stars Theory records, as well as some records from Welcome, Bare Minimum, and even a 7-inch by Harry Dean Stanton. This next block, we're going to send it to Portland. 3 songs from Rip City. Who better to start with than Portland's kings of punk and hardcore? I'm going to play a song from Poison Idea. My first exposure to this band was seeing their music video for Punish Me on Bohemia After Dark, which was a late night music video show that I watched religiously. This was kind of like after Nirvana kind of blew up, and I definitely had the itch to dig in more to, what went into making this band. And Bohemia After Dark was a cable access, I think, video show that played everything from like goth stuff, to punk, hip hop, hardcore metal, some indie stuff. So, you would see everything on here from Jesus and Mary Chain to Cypress Hill, Black Flag, Husker Du, the Gits, who we talked about earlier. So for me, this was super crucial, kind of avenue for me finding a lot of the punk rock stuff that I really got into because, at the time this was pre-internet. I didn't really have any friends that were into punk rock. And, so I would watch these shows for new to me, but old classic bands. And it really kind of shaped a lot of, the music that I would listen to from, some of that more goth stuff to the harder punk stuff to the underground hip hop, the darker side of grunge or whatever. So if you're into any of that stuff, you never heard of this, like they have full episodes on YouTube and you can watch them. So if you're into any of that kind of darker side of alternative music, like check this out. It's a treasure trove of great videos spanning, a bunch of different genres that in some way, shape or form kind of fit together despite the sounds not really being the same. Anyways, this is Plastic Bomb from Poison Ideas, Feel the Darkness, LP, 1990. It was reissued a ton of times. You could find this on vinyl basically anywhere, so go get it, add it to your collection, because it is one of the best to ever come from Northwest Hardcore. That was Jade Dust's Wild Geese from the Wild Geese record that just came out last week on Extinction Burst Records, and Ebullition, another Portland band. Again, that was a block of Portland bands. This is one of my favorites currently. They're kind of taking a cool, kind of new approach on the Revolution Summer vibe. Got to see them a couple times for the record release weekend in Portland and Seattle. Awesome guys, really cool creative music and fun live. So yeah, check them out. Pick this up from Extinction Burst or Ebullition, because it's a great record. Before that, I played Dying Wishes' Cowards Feed, Cowards Bleed from their Fragments of a Bitter Memory LP that just came out in 2021. This band is currently top of the hill in Portland hardcore right now, touring like crazy, spreading the Northwest metalcore reality to the world, and frankly, it's been awesome to see this band kind of grow from a promising, energetic young band to a complete and total juggernaut, and to see them just taking that on the road and opening with a lot of really big bands of the genre and turning a lot of heads. And I'm super psyched for them. All right, a couple more tracks before we shut it down. We're going to take this to Olympia 2004. This is Stop at Nothing. In my opinion, I don't know if this is gospel, but I kind of feel like this is the band that kind of made Olympia hardcore what it has been over the last decade and a half. Like, this is one of the best Northwest bands of the mid-aughts, and one that really kind of inspired a whole generation of Olympia hardcore kids. Members went on to Sojourner, Trash Talk, Insubordinate, also featured members of The Answer, Fast, Snotty, and just total Olympia hardcore to the core. That total, like, locals only, Olympia versus the world attitude. It all kind of started here, in my opinion. The song kind of takes that locals only vibe and puts a soundtrack behind it. The song's called Get Bent.
They even shot Tommy in the face, so his mother couldn't give him an open coffin at the funeral.
So they made an example of him and his brother. They buried him while they were still breathing.
I won't let anyone tell me what to do. nobody but myself to blame. I'm ashamed, believing that's what made me this way. Getting so much better all the time.
That was Wreck with the song Solitary Refinement off of the Rhythm of Self digital only EP. This doesn't exist anywhere in a hard copy as far as I know. Came out in 2015, self-released. Wreck was a Tacoma band. One of the most impressive bands that I can remember. Like, this is a band that right from the jump, they were so impressive. Like, pretty young kids. I remember the first time I saw them, I think, or one of the first times I saw them, they played a Quicksand cover. And even though they don't really sound like that, like they absolutely killed it. Like they crushed this cover. And I feel like Quicksand covers are not, Quicksand's not an easy band to cover and do it justice, particularly if you're a completely different style of band. And I think that was the moment where I kind of like realized this was a special band with a lot of talent. Out of the gates, they had some really cool momentum, and some of their earlier shows at the Viaduct, which is now Real Art, but back then was the Viaduct, or when they used to play in Red Room, like some of those shows in Tacoma were really popping, and I feel like they had a hot minute that was way too short, and I don't think that this band ever really broke out of the Northwest like I think they really deserved to. I think they suffered from a little bit of bad luck. Like their second EP was on 6131, which was a label that was kind of starting to pop a bit. Like they had put out, the new Rotting Out LP, the first Rotting Out LP, which was phenomenal. And they had a few other bands, I think maybe like Alpha and Omega and some bands that were doing some things. And then the label just kind of fizzled out and disappeared for a while. And, later kind of reemerged, but like, unfortunately for Wreck, like their release kind of happened right as this label was fizzling out. So I think that as a result, this EP kind of went out into the ether and without much, fanfare, unfortunately. But this song was from their final EP, which was just self-released. They just dropped it without any promo. Like there were no teasers that it was coming. They just posted it once. They're like, hey, new songs, go check them out. Like that kind of thing. And they were phenomenal. The songs were great. This 4-song EP is awesome. I don't even know if it exists in the internet, anymore. If you want it, let me know. Hit me up. I'll send you the files because it's great. It's a great EP. Unfortunately, the band just kind of fizzled out shortly afterwards, and members went on to other things. And their singer Cody, like, as far as I know, moved to like Hawaii and just kind of became a jungle person, living off the grid. Which, if you know Cody, is totally his style. A very minimalist kind of dude that just loves to be out in nature, so that's perfect for him. But some of the members went on to, like, Nick is in End of Days and Denial of Life. The members went on to bands like Angel Dust and some other, I'm drawing a blank right now, but great band, cool era. I share this as much as I can because I think it's underhyped and so thanks for checking it out. That's it for this episode. Thanks again for checking out NWHC Radio. If you enjoyed the show, please help spread the word. And again, like even more than the show, like if you hear stuff on here that you dig, like hype them up, hype up those bands, like go see them when they come. Particularly the newer bands, like the current ones that are still doing stuff. The historical stuff is important. Those bands, the things they stood for, it laid a foundation and helped kind of make Northwest Hardcore what it is today. But the bands that are out there right now are the ones that are the most important. So, make sure that this torch keeps burning. Again, if you're not already, follow us on Instagram or Twitter, both NWHC Radio, no spaces. And, try to amplify as many like local shows as possible, local bands as possible. So tune in, check out some of those shows. Some other handles to follow is Brainstem Productions, which you can find on Instagram and Twitter. On Twitter, follow PNW Hardcore. Those are two handles that are just sharing lots of shows, because there's always good stuff going on. And so throw them a follow and, come out to the shows. If you see me there, I don't live in the Northwest anymore. I live in California, but I visit occasionally. So if you see me there, please say what's up. This was NWHC Radio. I got songs already lined up for episode 3. So keep your eyes out for that in another 2 or 3 weeks, and support Northwest Hardcore.